Awesome. So welcome everyone to our joint health and balance class. Good morning, Jen. So welcome. So I am Coach Julio. I'll be your instructor, your coach for the next 8 weeks or so. So we meet every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Otherwise, if we have a schedule conflict, I'll make sure to communicate. And speaking of that, next Wednesday, we'll have to rearrange that. So we could move it to Tuesday or Thursday, but we could talk about that at the end of class. But anyway, so what I wanted to do, is go over Canvas briefly because we do have some valuable information there, kind of tell you our expectations, what to expect in this class, and almost how the class runs. So usually, we'll come in, we'll have like a little lesson at the start of class, just probably go over some information that's going to be valuable for our health. And then we'll start usually on our chair with some chair stretches, and we'll go back and forth with some balance exercises. And we'll probably incorporate a little bit more balance with this class compared to what we did last term with just our mobility and flexibility class. So if you could just, anytime you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or just go on the chat, and let me know, your question there. If you feel like you're gonna be missing, a couple of times throughout the semester, or just you might miss a session, don't feel obligated to reach out as long as you watch the recording, which usually you'll find on the front page. But if you want to reach out, my email address is on the front of the Canvas page. You can always do that. And yeah, just check in. We usually do drops of students that don't log in at all. So if you've logged in here, if you're watching this video, you should be fine. You won't get dropped. So unless you ask to. But anyways, let's go into our Canvas, which I'll just share my screen. So if I could do that right now, I think that's it. You could just follow along right here. Okay. So this is the front of the Canvas page, which you saw. There I am. There's my email address. If you want to follow me on social media, there's my Instagram account. And I highly recommend you follow the YouTube channel here, which would be on this link. Just go to it and subscribe. All of our recordings will be in there. This link here is how you access Zoom. So that's where you would click to access this class. And then down here, you would see extra videos for workouts or sessions. And usually I'll put the recordings right above here. So what we're doing a little bit differently this semester is something we incorporated a while back, but we want to get back to it, and it's just providing a little bit more information. So quickly, it might take us a few minutes, but I want to go over the benefits of joint health. Okay, so you have access to this. You would just click there and it would navigate to the next page. So it's quite a bit of information. I'll touch base on maybe 2 points per section. So again, just the main benefits of joint health include improving mobility, reducing pain, better physical function, and higher quality of life. So all of that's going to influence, your life. So by maintaining your joints, you can continue to participate in daily activities exercises without discomfort. So, and that's what we want to do. I always mention this class is being like a WD-40 to your joints. Okay, so if things are feeling a little bit tight or not feeling like they're moving as fluidly, that's what we're here to correct. Okay, so some physical benefits, just increasing your mobility and flexibility, just healthy joints, wider range of motion, smoother range of motion. So when we move our arm here, we want to move it smooth. We don't want it to kind of like crack and have like a limited range of motion there. So that's what we're trying to work on, reducing pain and stiffness. So if we could increase the range of motion, increase circulation, hopefully, if we are feeling our arthritis or any sort of discomfort on a joint, this class hopefully will benefit you. And again, the more we move, the more calories we're burning as well. So weight management is also influenced by this class. And then mental and emotional benefits, again, just your well-being, being confident that you can move at a certain pattern, or you don't have to doubt yourself anymore when it comes to reaching a higher step. Maybe and that's one thing that I've noticed, especially if you're traveling outside the country. Sometimes steps are not consistent. Sometimes you have a little step, sometimes it's a big step. And if you don't have that range of motion on your hip to elevate your knee, then we could be limited in just how we travel. So having that confidence develop with this class would be awesome. And then yeah, just greater independence. Again, luckily in the U.S. we have laws that we require walking rails or for assistance upstairs and stuff like that. But you might go to a town or a country where those laws aren't required, so they don't have those items. And yeah, so if your balance is a little bit better, you could be a little bit more independent when it comes to that. And then just long term, being long term health benefits, prevention of chronic conditions. It's one of those things when I was working at a physical therapy office that, I was shocked as like a 21-year-old when our physical therapist doctor would tell us that sometimes, some injuries like falling down could sometimes be life threatening, breaking a hip bone. You don't, as an athlete, you don't think of that, being detrimental to someone's uh, longevity with their health. As an athlete, you might just think like, oh, well, if I break my hip, I can't run anymore. So I'm gonna be on crutches or on a wheelchair for a while. But if you're in a later state of life where maybe we're already going a little bit downhill and we fall and no one's around and we can't get up, unfortunately, sometimes, there are some scary stories where folks fall down and they can't reach for assistance or for a phone call. And yeah, and that could become life-threatening, which is a scary thought. So again, all of this stuff, we're just trying to prevent any scenarios even remotely close to that. So, and again, you're moving more, so it is going to improve your heart health, and that's kind of influencing your cardio. So if you're able to move a little bit more fluidly, you should be able to go on longer walks, maybe even start jogging, try different cardio exercises. If you're on a bicycle, you need nice range of motion on your knee, on your ankle, on your hip. So, this class will benefit anyone across the board depending on what they're doing. So, oof. All right, that's a mouthful. So, but yeah, just going back to the Canvas page, I'll go back here. And yeah, so I'll have different modules every week. And if you click on this link to module one, it'll take you to a page with more information. Let me see this one. I gotta reassess. Yeah, I gotta rebuild that one. So, but it would take you to a page with more information. And I'll just correct that link. But anyways, that was a mouthful. Do we have any questions with all that information that was shared or any concerns? Hi, Elsa. Hi, Lynn. All right. So if we don't have any concerns or questions, or if just any questions, feel free to ask. But we'll get started. And another thing, if there is a movement that we're doing, or something that just feels odd, causes pain on a certain area, just feel free to skip it and do something else that's not painful. We don't want to walk out of this class limping away. So we want to make sure that we're feeling well. There's times where, usually my left shoulder at a certain angle or my left hip sometimes gets irritated. And if you've been with me long enough, there's many times where my calves get really tight. So I'll avoid anything that's jumping or bouncing. So if you ever have one of those days where you're just not feeling 100%, it's okay to just rest that muscle group. Okay. So there's a lot of times where Like for instance, if I go to a chiropractor or a physical therapist and I tell them, "Hey, my calves hurt. What should I do?" It's very likely that he's gonna give me a strength program for my calves. But so you might think, all right, I just gotta get my calves stronger. I gotta work them out more. But if they're tender and fatigued and you start working them out, you're gonna probably hurt yourself more. So just listen to your body moving forward. So have some water nearby. For this class, the equipment that we'll need will be a chair, a yoga mat, and then if you have like a long pole or a foam roller, that will work. But yeah, we'll get started. So awesome. So let's go ahead and we'll start with our, since we are incorporating balance, we aren't going to go through all the stretches that we have because I do want to focus on balance as well. So let's just go ahead and start with our neck stretches. So we're sitting down here and then just gently left to right without rotating your shoulders or your torso. And with all these movements, we want to have a nice um, breathing pattern. Okay, so just consistent. We don't want to start hyperventilating. I usually try to track all my physical activities on my watch that has a fitness tracker. So for this one, I usually put it under yoga for the activity. So I know it's not yoga, but we do some yoga poses here and there. Let's go up and down. And to be honest, this is the one time out of the week where I really spend close to an hour just stretching, being more mindful of, doing physical activity for health and wellness purposes. Any other time of the week that I'm moving, it's usually for a workout, but this is super important for us. But I also think it's hard for us to get ourselves up to do them. Let's do neck circles. Just gently rotate your head around your shoulder, the top of your chest, your upper back. Yeah, because me personally, I think it's just I like getting the most out of my time. And when I'm healthy, I feel like I'm gonna get the most out of my time from getting stronger or faster or improving my cardio. Um, and if you're healthy, you're almost like, well, why do I need to stretch so much? I'm healthy. I don't, I should just spend my time getting switch directions. But of course, you know, once an injury comes around, that's when you start thinking, dang, I should have been stretching more. I should have had a better warm up. I should have slept a little bit longer. Um, so we're just trying to be proactive instead of reactive. Okay. Let's go ahead and do snow angels. So just follow along, bring your arms up and to your side. If you have a chair with not much of interference behind it, you could even bring your hands behind your back. Get a little bit more range of motion. So yeah, but um, I do since I have pretty chronic tight calves. It happens often. I have been a little bit more disciplined with my warm-up routine for my lower legs. So I think it's helping. So, and I'm trying to do better. Now that the pain is almost gone, I'm still doing it because the old me, usually when the pain would stop, that's when I stopped stretching. But yeah, I don't miss that pain, so I'm just gonna continue with my routine. Okay, before our arms get too tired, let's go ahead and continue back to our neck. So sit on your left hand, bring your right hand over your head, allow the weight of your arm to drop to your elbow. So by sitting on your left hand, you're keeping that left shoulder fixed. And then we're just getting a light stretch here. And switch. And then a reminder, if you are on my Monday class and you haven't done the baseline testing video yet, please complete that so we could work on improving our goals. And I think I've only had a couple of you tell me your personal goals, which I have included to that spreadsheet. So if you haven't yet, feel free to send me an email with what your personal goal is. So just so we could all improve on that on the next 8 weeks. All right, so we're gonna look down, heads behind our head, and then elbows down. Okay, very good. I want to separate the shoulders, back, and neck stretches a little bit because our shoulders do get a little fatigued. So we're gonna do one more before we start with some balance work. So all we're gonna do is just try to bring your right shoulder to your left knee. Okay, so you could just almost lean here. And this is just working on the upper back a little bit. And with that rotation, it's focusing on that specific side. So again, just trying to bring that right shoulder to that, or that left shoulder to the right knee. And then let's do good morning since we're doing a similar motion. So this time good mornings would just bring your torso down and up. This might feel like a stretch right now in this class, but then sometimes when we incorporate this movement on the strength and conditioning class, we might just add a little bit of resistance and this becomes an actual lift for your lower back.
Julio, do you want us to hinge at the hip straight back, or you want us to articulate the spine rolling up?
Yeah, good point. So yeah, so we want to hinge at the hip. So we would want to keep the back straight because if we're just curving, doing this here, that's just gonna be almost a stretch of like your vertebrae. But we want to, yeah, like you said, good point. So we want to hinge down here, keeping the back straight. Yeah. Yeah, and if you ever find yourself doing the lift and it's too heavy and you're rotating or curving your spine, then at that point we want to back off that weight because now we're doing a movement that could cause an injury. Okay, so let's move our chair to the side. We're gonna get on our feet and we're gonna go with maybe we'll spend about maybe the next 5 or 10 minutes doing some balance work just so you could split up this. So one of the first ones that we'll do, and it's, seems easy enough. It's just our feet together. Okay. And right here, we're just gonna stand face forward, about 20 seconds, just hanging out. This is the Romberg stance right here. Now we're gonna look left to right. So the idea is to, by looking left to right, kind of throwing off our equilibrium a little bit. So if you have really great balance, this is probably not a challenge to you. But if you feel like your ankles are shaking a little bit, maybe we want to slow down how fast we're turning our head. Okay, and then same idea, up and down. If this stance is challenging to you, can you give me a thumbs up on the emojis? Give me a thumbs up just so I know where we are. Okay. And this next one, this is where we are going to get a little bit more advanced. So anytime I ask you to close your eyes, try to just be in a safe spot. If you feel like you're falling, separate your feet and open your eyes. Okay. So don't try to like self-balance, just open your eyes and before you fall or anything. So right here, we're going to close our eyes. Okay. So just hands to your side or right in front of you. Close your eyes. We're going to hold that for about 20 seconds. Just going to check the chat. And open your eyes. Very good. Okay, so I'm just going to turn slightly here so you can see my feet. So what we're going to do is going to be a back step into a high knee drive, okay? So right leg is being worked on first. We're going to do 5 to 6 of these. So you're going to step back and then bring that knee up. And bring it as high as you can. So step back and up. And when you step back, maybe try to elevate the toes about half an inch off the ground. So this entire time, you're only supporting yourself with your left foot. Do one more. All right. So I'm very flat-footed. So throughout that whole time, my left foot was becoming a little bit fatigued and irritated. Did anyone else feel that on their foot? Okay. All right, Lynn. All right. So I'm not alone. So let's step back. So now it's the left leg. Step back and drive that knee up. So again, and anytime we're doing something on one foot, you can always hover your hand over your chair or over a table and just push down on that item or object. So, so we get better balance and just hit a little reset. Did anyone have pain or a sensation on their right foot? Okay, I only felt it on my left. So anyone else? All right, so sometimes that could be due to your arches, the tenderness of your feet, the support on your shoes. If you have some really old shoes, you could feel some tenderness. It might be time to replace them. Okay, so let's go ahead and find the longest stretch in your room. And we're gonna do one foot in front of the other. Just walking the tightrope. Having shoes will provide a larger base with the floor. So these movements that with balance should be a little bit easier because your base is wider. And then once we reach the end, we're going to go in reverse. But sometimes, like I mentioned, if you have old shoes and they are worn out and they are worn out unevenly, sometimes your shoes could give you worse balance because of the integrity of the shoe. Okay. All right. Once we reach the end, we're going to go back and do it just on our toes. Okay. So heels are elevated. This is also a nice little workout for your calves, your soleus, your gastrocnemius. So your gastrocnemius would be the bulky, the ball-looking part of your calves. And the soleus is like the triangle that's underneath it. Very good. All right. All right. Well, we're on our feet. We could break up and do a couple of the stand-up stretches. So let's just do trunk rotation. just right here, just gentle, left to right. Remember, we don't want to do any movements that cause pain. Okay, let's reach up to the ceiling and then lean right and then go left. Very good. Let's bring that right arm across. Kind of doing a few of the ones we usually do in our chair, but being on our feet, we'll get a little bit more blood flow going right now. Yeah, so I'll ask real quick. So next Wednesday, I do have a schedule conflict. I have a trip lined up with my family to Legoland. So I'm asking you all if we could either meet on Tuesday or Thursday. So when you get a chance, if you could just go on the chat and just type in what day works better for you. And then based on, what day's a little bit more popular, we'll go with that day. But we could go Tuesday or Thursday at 9 in the morning. And then if you can make it, we'll just post a recording. So yeah, when you get a chance, just give me I have a couple people typing in. Thank you. And yeah, and if you can make it, like I said, I'll post a recording.
Is this for next Wednesday?
Yeah. I'll be in Legoland October 22nd. Yeah, so let's go ahead and do our ab circles. Yeah, my birthday's next week and trying to do something over the week to commemorate the date of my birth. So ab circles right here. And yeah, so we bought a 2-day pass to Legoland, and we have to use the second day by the early November. And that date works best for the rest of my family.
Julio, if you ever get the chance, stay in the hotel. It's kind of fun.
It looks awesome. I'll look into that. Maybe we could stay there the night before.
Yeah, we did like a AAA discount had a thing, so that's
Oh,
able to get the room, reasonable.
yes.
Got like kids for the kids, big bed for the adult.
Okay. I'll
Little
let my wife know. I know she's more open for hotel stays when there's a AAA incentive.
yeah.
So
And
yeah.
when you get in the elevators, there's a disco ball and it plays music.
Oh, cool.
We
Okay.
always just dance in the elevator, while we're going around.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we'll try
A
that.
neat experience. Even if you don't like stay there, at least walk through it, and
Yeah.
you see what it's all about.
Yeah. No, it's for sure consider that. So yeah, just big hula hoops. I saw the hotel and I was like, this is pretty neat. And I didn't think to stay. It might even be cheaper too since we're going on a Wednesday. Um, so I know the last one went on the weekend. Yeah, it looked like it was a little bit busy there. Let's go ahead and switch.
I've never been to Legoland. Wanna go?
Yeah, I did my first Legoland trip last month or 2 months ago, but it was not gonna lie, I think I just chose the wrong direction to start off because you could go either left or right. And all right, great. So the next one we're gonna go ahead and do is gonna be our tandem stance. So right foot in front of our left. And yeah, so if you go left, you see like the parts that are advertised where they have a lot of figurines of like San Francisco or Hollywood, all these big cities. But we went right where they had like more of like the big kids or like teenager like scenes, but it wasn't so much Lego. And I thought it was kind of, subpar for what I was expecting. But towards the end, we got to the left side, and I was like, oh, we should have started here. So I think we're gonna choose that route next. Let's go left to right. But yeah, you should, especially since you have little ones, Cherise, you should take them.
They've been, not me.
Oh, okay.
My older granddaughter, she just went a few weeks ago for a field trip. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'd like to try it.
and yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
by myself.
yeah, come along next week.
Yeah, we
Okay.
went when they first opened, they had like passes and they were only $59. It was really cheap,
Oh, man.
Ooh,
like 3, 4 times that. But we went for so many years because I have 3 boys that we should have just bought lifetime passes at the time.
Yeah.
oh, nice.
But we were broke, so we just
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think the very good here. So this is where this one gets tricky. This one should be a little bit more challenging if you haven't noticed yet. So if you close your eyes again, open them and just separate your feet. Okay. Or if you have that object close to you, just push down on it. So let's close our eyes. I'll see if we go, if it makes more sense to like stay there the night before at the hotel or the night of. So, oh, I think we would have to stay there the night before because our little one has class the next day on Thursday. So, yeah, solve that problem real quick. Open your eyes. Oh, that really irritated my left foot behind. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and do some hip adductions. Okay, so we'll do a couple hip adductions and then we'll transition back to the chair, finish up with some chair, and then come back up to our feet. So hip adductions, we're gonna have our left foot elevated about half an inch off the ground, and then just toes are still pointing forward, and leg goes out and back. Okay, you're facing forward the entire time.
Leo, if my balance is garbage, could I just lay down and do those and lift up?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, because this is like a combo workout where it's working out your glute and your IT band here. But of course, since we're on one foot, it's also working on our balance. So let's go ahead and switch. So this would be like a standing Jane Fonda. And again, if you feel like you want to go back and try these maybe next week, just have a chair, your chair nearby, and then just kind of hover your hand over it. So I was talking to my wife the other day, and I've been working out and lifting because I want to look good for my wife, and I think she could care less how I look. So let's go ahead and do our quad stretch. Grab our left foot and pull back. So anyways, so yeah, I've been lifting for a few years now, and yeah, I think I've reached like a point of like stagnation. Like I enjoy it, but I'm not doing anything with it. Um, I guess I still look fit and I feel fit, but I do miss competition, but I don't think I have the confidence to the competitions that this sport requires. The switch, which is like getting on stage or like some heavy lifting. Um, my competitions, the competitions I'm really fond of are races. So like road races, cross country races, but recently I've been really intrigued by trail runs and trail races. So I'm trying to get healthy enough to run, close to like an hour or 2 hours, so I could start venturing out into the trails and maybe sign up for like some trail runs. Um, so I think I'm like slightly closing, come back here. And then let's go back to our chair. It almost feels like I'm closing a little chapter in my life again. Let's go ahead and we did our trunk rotations. We're gonna work on our biceps a little bit. So just shoulder taps right here. So yeah, so I think my next venture is gonna be to prioritize my running again, like I did, maybe from 2002 until like 2015. And let's do opposite shoulder tap and focus on that so I could maybe get back into running. Because longevity wise too, I think strength training is great, but I think cardio work feels like something that I could do into like my 70s or 80s, or if I make it to my 90s, I can go out there and do something like that. So um, yeah, so hopefully that works out. I'm just worried about my calves. So let's bring that elbow up and drop that forearm down. So make it an effort to bring that fist as low as you can. So I think right now, like my training was like 70% lifting, 30% cardio. I think I'm gonna switch them around to 70% cardio, 30% lifting. We're gonna switch. Yeah, I just missed the trails. I feel like runs are a lot shorter too than my lift sessions. Sometimes I could go and do a 30-minute run and I'll be happy for the day. But if my workout at the gym is less than like an hour, I feel like it's too short. So I think I get more bang for my buck too with running. So I'm just really trying to convince myself that it's a good idea. So hopefully I'm right. Okay, we're gonna work on our shoulders next. So right here, and just open up shoulders and upper back. All right, very good. All right, let's take like a quick 2 or 3 minute break, grab some water, use the bathroom, let's regroup, and 2 to 3 minutes, we'll be right back. Give folks another minute to return. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead, come back, finish up with the last few stretches on the chair. Over here, we're gonna go ahead and transition to our hips performance stretch. So left ankle on that right knee. Okay, left ankle on that right knee. And then remember, if you could just, when you get a chance, if you haven't yet, just chat on the chat. If next Tuesday or Thursday works for a workout for you, let me know. I'll be out later in Buena Park recruiting at a high school race today. Yeah, I had to change the course. Let's slightly push down on that left knee. A little bit of pressure. Yeah, I had to change the cross country course because apparently the hill got a little too muddy from yesterday's rain. So I think the kids are excited because it's gonna be a flat course. They dread the hill. Bring that knee up, slightly up. Ooh, little tight. So just hug it out. And again, my ankle's still locked into place. I'll tally up the days, and then when I send the email recording about the recording, I'll share later today what day we'll meet tomorrow or next week. Okay, very good. Let's switch. So right foot on that left knee. Apply a little bit of tension on that right knee. Push down gently. All right, bring that knee up. This one's less tight. All right, we're gonna go with some hip openers before we transition to our chair squats. So legs are facing forward, right leg comes out. Okay, and before it drops down, bring your knee and keep it here. Just push it up. Make sure that knee doesn't drop. Try to keep your torso as upright as possible. Does anyone have a bunch of Halloween decorations in their house? Like ridiculous amount of decorations. We do at our house. I think it's too much.
Minimal, kind of a fall pumpkin combo.
No, we have, let's switch. We have 5 arches through our sidewalk. Yeah, we're that house. And then
We're
we have-
usually at my son's on Halloween around their neighborhood. So I don't go elaborate.
There's probably like in our block houses like that. There's maybe like 3 in our block, but there's a block like 2 blocks down. They have like half the neighborhoods have arches. It looks pretty neat. So.
May get a lot. It's on a Friday.
Yeah.
Halloween's on a Friday. That might be
Oh yeah, it'll
crazy.
be fun. Yeah, we'll have a lot of kids there. So let's go ahead and work with our chair squat. So if you're in my Monday class and for your goals, if you want to work on your regular chair squats, then let's practice a regular chair squat. But if you either practice extended or elevated, I think I saw more split between regular and extended. I think I might have seen 1 or 2 person with the elevated one. So again, so there's this one that we can just do here. So if we're doing these, give me about 12 to 15. If we're doing individual extended, give me 6 to 8 on each leg. And if you're doing elevated, again, 6 to 8 on each leg. Okay, so your count, so either 15 of the regular or 8 and 8 or 6 and 6. Ready and begin. This being the first class, I think I'll start with the extended. So again, just don't use your hands. All the work is done on your legs. Six, 7, 8, 9, 2, 3. Right leg seems a little bit stronger, or have at least more confidence on that right leg for me. Awesome. Take a breather once you've lifted yourself. Okay. And we could catch our breath. We're going to do a couple more movements here on the chair before we transition to our standing stretches. So right here, just as we're catching our breath, just give me about 20 heel raises. Allows our heart to calm down a little bit. I got my heart rate up. Okay, and then now toe raises. So heels are flat, but your toes come up and down. Okay, let's go ahead and sit towards the front of the chair, recline back. I want you to bring your knee close to your chest and extend that lower leg. Stretching out the hamstring. You could flex or extend your foot as well. So as you're bringing it up and down, your toes could come up towards you and then away from you. We'll switch. Okay, now we're gonna do with our leg press motion. Okay, so leg press, bring that in, leg in, and then out and down. Okay, almost like we're pedaling if we're on like one of those sitting down bikes. And we're just trying to extend. So extend that leg, heel down, and then heel kicks back in. It's the mobility of the hip and the knee joint and ankle joint. A lot of action going on. All right, we'll switch. Awesome. All right. Our last stretch or movement on the chair would be our ABC. So just trace the letters of the alphabet around your ankles. One switch. All right. All right, so we could now put the chair away. Let's grab our pole or a foam roller. And let's go with that next. And so I have my foam roller here. You can use a broomstick, any items. All right. So we'll go from here. And we're just going to go gently left to right. I think I need a longer one of these. I just can't find a long broomstick or a pole. Should find some PVC pipe. Okay, we're going to focus on that left shoulder. So again, your right hand is pushing the bottom of your object, and that left hand is just being guided by the push, okay? So I'll do about 8 at this side angle. All right, 30 degrees forward. $60 degrees forward. $90, so right in front of you. Towards the back now. All right, we're gonna focus on that right shoulder now. Okay, so now our left hand is pushing our object, and then going to the right side. 30 degrees now. $60. $90, right in front of you. All right, and towards the back. And let's go behind the back. So again, behind the back here, up and down. Just go up and down. And then lift back, 1, 2. All right. Okay. All right, folks. I think for our first day, we did plenty. Next week we'll focus a little bit more on the floor stretches. But yeah, so let me go ahead and then just tally up. So 13 folks participated. I see 2 Tuesdays, 1 Thursdays. I see either one. Someone can make it, either one. Can make it either day. Aquarium at Legoland is awesome. Thank you, Debbie. Oh yeah, I did do that. I did that at the very end. I didn't even know they had an aquarium there. That was awesome. Tuesday. Okay, so I see 4 Tuesdays, 1 Thursday, and like 6 either day. So if it's okay with everyone, we'll meet on Tuesday next week. And then if you aren't able to make it, then we'll go ahead and have the recording for you. You know, and later that afternoon. But any more questions before we head out? Lynn, we good?
Yeah.
All right, Cherise, very good. Thank you all for tuning in. And then, like I said, feel free to explore the Canvas page a little bit more. I'll probably have a little bit more information like we started today. Hopefully, you guys didn't mind that, and hopefully it benefits. But if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And yeah, I'll see you folks next week. So
Okay.
enjoy your weekend.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Julio.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.